Hello, and welcome to this three-part webinar series on leading productive meetings. During these webinars, we'll explore practical steps you can take before, during, and after your meetings to ensure they yield productive conversations and meaningful results. I think it's safe to say that most of us have experienced our fair share of ineffective meetings. Think of meetings you've been in where there seems to be no clear purpose or relevance for participants, or there is a clear purpose, but it gets hijacked by the agendas of one or two people. For meeting leaders, it can sometimes feel like pulling teeth just to get people to engage. Or they do engage, but the leader doesn't actively manage the discussion, and the meeting turns into a battleground. If you experience meetings like this often, you may have been tempted to throw in the towel on meetings. Doing so, however, would be a bit like throwing out the baby with the bathwater. It's what the author Patrick Lencioni termed the myth of too many meetings. The reality is we need to meet. Meetings, when they're led well, are what enable us to generate ideas, solve problems, and coordinate our efforts. We know that a group of talented professionals with differing expertise areas and perspectives can generate better solutions than individuals acting in isolation. To do so, though, they need to come together. They need to meet. So the problem is not meetings, it's poor planning and poor management of meetings. The good news is we can change that, and relatively easily. There are practical steps we can take before, during, and after a meeting that set us up for success, and that's where we'll focus our time during this series. So let's dive in. The keys to setting up a meeting to be productive are planning and preparation in these areas: defining the meeting's purpose and relevance, designing the agenda, and ensuring that stakeholders are aligned around these. Let's start with defining the purpose. When people come into a meeting, they enter with a few important questions in their head. If these aren't answered early on, they distract the person and impede productive engagement. Typically, the first question that people bring with them is, why are we meeting? What's the purpose? Most meetings are intended to accomplish one of these aims: align people around a goal or garner support and buy-in, coordinate their efforts, check and monitor progress, solve a problem, brainstorm and create together, or deliberate a proposal and make a decision. The most productive meetings are those that stay focused on one clear purpose, maybe two, and make that purpose clear in advance to all who will attend. Once you've defined the purpose, ensure that the format for the meeting supports that purpose. In his book Death by Meeting, Patrick Lencioni presents three primary meeting formats: the update meeting, the tactical meeting, and the strategy meeting. If we just want to check in on what everybody's doing and coordinate our efforts, we don't need to meet for very long. In fact, we don't even need to sit down. Frequent but brief and efficient update meetings can help us stay on track as a team and avoid creating the problems that arise when we don't coordinate well with each other. These are typically just 5 to 10 minutes, and they're stand-up meetings. They occur at regular intervals. Depending on the nature and objective of the team, they may occur daily, weekly, or bi-weekly. Tactical meetings are longer, about 2 to 3 hours, and are focused on execution and implementation of strategies, the details of what we're doing and how we're doing it. They're not the place where we deliberate and decide what we should be doing. That happens in strategy meetings. These occur less frequently, once or twice a year, and take more time, 1 to 2 days. This is where we scan the environment, evaluate opportunities and obstacles to success, refocus on why we do what we do and what we aim to accomplish, and determine where we may need to change course. All that requires time for thoughtful reflection and engaged, productive deliberations. The key to success here is to keep these discussions at this high strategic level and refrain from diving into the details of execution too soon. Table those discussions for tactical meetings. The next key step in the before the meeting stage is to create the agenda. This is the plan for the meeting and requires the same degree of forethought and design that would be given to preparing for an important presentation. The first moments of the meeting should always be reserved for reminding participants of the meeting's purpose and objectives and checking progress on the action items from the previous meeting. And the last moments should be reserved for reviewing the meeting's outcomes, confirming the decisions and deliverables that were agreed to. Reserving time at the end of each meeting to confirm commitments and time at the beginning of the subsequent meeting to check progress on those builds accountability and follow-through into the group's work together. Each of these happens pretty quickly. What occurs in the middle accounts for the bulk of the meeting's time. This is the new business category and should include a list of discussion topics and the time allotted for each. It's during this time that the group is focused on achieving the objectives of the meeting. Be sure to include here the key questions you want to ask participants, as well as input and information you want from them. For the agenda to be truly useful in enhancing productivity, it should be created and distributed to participants well in advance. A good rule of thumb is at least 24 hours prior to the meeting. When this occurs, the agenda enables all involved to plan and prepare. Participants can think through their responses to the key questions. They can gather and prepare information. This enables them to make the most productive and efficient use of their time together. The final consideration prior to the meeting is to ensure that all involved in leading the meeting are aligned and are in agreement about the objectives, agenda, and process. Often there's only one leader, and so this doesn't apply. In some instances, though, there are 2 or more leaders who've gathered a group together for a given purpose. In these instances, it's important that they're all on the same page and not working at cross purposes. One way to facilitate this is to have a pre-meeting. During this time, those involved will confirm and agree on the meeting's goals, ensure they have a united message to bring to the larger group, and each knows the role they'll play. The strategies and practices we've discussed thus far are what a meeting leader can do to prepare well for a meeting. Fortunately, there are also steps you can take even when you're not leading the meeting to help set the meeting up for success. One thing you can do is to request an agenda if you don't receive one. Reach out to the meeting leader and ask if he or she would be able to share the plan for the meeting so that you can come prepared. When you receive the agenda, take time to review it. Give some thought to the key questions that will be asked so that you're prepared to respond. Consider what information or input will be needed or will be helpful from you. Prepare that in advance and come ready to share. If the agenda doesn't include key questions or requests for information, you could ask for these. Consider asking, are there any questions I should give some thought to before the meeting, or information you'd like me to bring? In the best case scenario, this will trigger the leader to share this information with the rest of the group as well. Those are 4 simple things you can do when not the meeting leader that can help enhance productivity. Thank you for your time and your attention during this first part in the Leading Productive Meetings webinar series. If you're interested in continuing, please view Part 2 in the series titled Leading Productive Meetings During the Meeting.